everybody, welcome to this interesting episode, I will say, where I'm going to talk all about the new generation of consoles, the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, giving you my initial thoughts and impressions of it. I've had these consoles for what, 2-3 weeks now? Something like that. So let's get straight into it with the PS5. Well, the first things first, the way that it looks. Wow, this is an ugly console. It's hideous. Really is hideous. I think if you look at it from a distance, it's fine. It looks almost like a fancy like Dubai skyscraper sort of thing. But when you actually get it in your hands, when you see it in your entertainment system and so on, it's actually really big, both in terms of height, but in terms of width as well. It's a chunky boy. And it's just horrible to look at. It doesn't match with anything in my entertainment system. It barely fits in there. It's just really not good looking at all, and the fins on the side seem to be like plastic, so it's not really, you don't look at it and think, wow, that's like a really cool high-tech bit of hardware. It looks like someone's kind of just slapped it together kind of thing, and it looks like it was designed by a kid. So that's the big negative I want to get out of the way. It's an ugly thing. I think in the future, if they ever release a slim version of it or a PS5 Pro or whatever, I think people are going to get those new editions simply because they probably will look better. And speaking of the look of things, let's talk about the controller, the DualSense. If you've seen some of my streams playing Astro's Playroom, I've talked about the DualSense, how it's got the haptic feedback, it vibrates, the triggers react based on what's going on in the game. Sometimes they resist what you're doing, sometimes they feel a bit spongy, sometimes they are more like triggers and buttons. It's really cool features in the DualSense. I think the DualSense is actually one of the key new next gen things that's super cool and interesting, and it's going to be really interesting to see how many games actually utilize it, because if you look at the DualShock 4 for the PS4, when that first came out, you had like the touchpad, you had the microphone in there. It didn't really get used much after a while. In fact, most of the times the touchpad ended up just being another button. It was a button to bring up your map in most of the games. And then the occasional game used to have the speakers utilized as well. It became more of like a gimmick that wasn't really considered much. Hopefully that's not going to be the case with the DualSense. Hopefully we do get more and more games utilizing it, because it does actually add something a little special, because it has got much more going on than what the DualShock 4 did. But the DualSense, I think, is a little on the bulkier side. It's bigger than the DualShock 4. A couple of times when I'm playing it, not so much recently, but when I first started playing it, it did take a little while to get used to the actual size of it. I've got small hands, so the bulkier, the bigger the controller, the less comfortable it is for me personally. So that was a little bit of an issue, but it hasn't bothered me much since then, so maybe I've just gotten used to it. But now let's actually get into the console and what it's capable of, what it can do. It's fast. It's really fast, in fact. You start it up, push the button on the controller. By the time I turn on my TV, the PlayStation's on. So it's really super fast that way on in regards to the loading. You put in a game, it takes about 20 seconds and then you're actually in the game, like physically playing it, like Spider-Man Miles Morales for example. Turn on the console, pick up the controller, press X again, I'm in the game. That's literally how quick it is. And I don't mean I'm in the game as in, right, I'm in the menus. I literally mean like I'm playing the game, running around the city, swinging around and throwing webs. It's that quick. Some games are slower than others, obviously. Different games, different developers and so on. I haven't tried much in the way of backwards compatibility yet. I've loaded up Hitman 2, and one of the things with Hitman 2 is that you've got to connect to the servers before you can get into the game. So that was taking a little bit longer because it has to go to another step before it can load up the game. But even then, super quick loading times. In terms of the way the games look in here, I think it is a notable step up from the PS4 in that everything's crisper and sharper. Even the backwards compatible games, which haven't necessarily gotten the upgrade elements to them, look super great. The HDR works better. At least on my TV it works better. I always had issues with some of the HDR elements of my PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X, but this time around the HDR seems to have been optimized a bit more, and that's really great. It makes the games look really pretty. But in relation to how quick things are, downloads. When you insert a disc and then it downloads to the console, or when you go onto the PlayStation Store and you download a game, it's really quick. This is the biggest thing that I'm super happy with. on the PlayStation 4, the PlayStation 4 Pro, I would get a game from the PlayStation Store, and then it would take like maybe a couple of hours at most to download. Either way, it took a long time. This time you're talking 45 minutes on the high end of things, sometimes maybe a little longer, sometimes even shorter. But it's super quick at downloading. That means that you can literally select the game to download, do something in the background quickly, and there you go, you're probably able to go into the game by the time you're done whatever you've done. It's really good, and it's actually the one thing which I think has a huge advantage over this Xbox Series X. It takes 45 minutes to download a game on the PS5. Xbox Series X, using the same internet connection, a wired internet connection that is, you're talking 3 to 4 hours. How is there such a difference? Why is the PlayStation 5 downloading games 2 to 3 times as fast as the Xbox Series X? I don't know if there's a problem with my Xbox Series X, I don't know if there's something going on there, maybe a glitch or a bug or whatever, but it's ridiculous. We'll get into that in just a bit though. PS5 download speeds, really good bonus. It's probably the thing I like most about this. But of course, it's not all about just the way things look, it's not all about how quick things happen, it's about the games. If you have these consoles and you've got no games to play on them, well, what's the point? Well, luckily the PS5 has launched with a bunch of games, almost a game for every different type of audience member. If you want like an action adventure, you've got Spider-Man. If you want a family-friendly platformer, you've got Sackboy or Astro's Playroom. If you want something that's way harder and much more of like a gamer's game, then you've got Demon's Souls. There's something there for everyone, and all of these games have been getting great reviews across the board. So far I've played Miles Morales, Astro's Playroom. I've even touched on a couple of other things from the last gen that I was playing on this one. So there's something here for everyone, and that's a huge bonus. And the fact is, I played Miles Morales, I played Astro's Playroom. Those are both great games. At this point I've platinumed Astro's Playroom, and I'm considering platinuming Miles Morales. If you're getting a PlayStation 5, I would say those two are must-plays. Astro's Playroom is free with every PlayStation 5, it automatically downloads to your console, so whether you want it or not, you're getting that game. You can of course delete it if you want, but I wouldn't recommend it. Astro's Playroom is the game that really shows off what the controller and the DualSense and haptic feedback can do. So even if you're not interested in the game itself, I would say give it a go, just so you can experience the controller. But one of the new things here is the PlayStation Plus collection. If you're a member of PlayStation Plus, with the PlayStation 5, there's now the PlayStation Plus collection, where it's like, I think it's like 20 to 25 games from the last generation now on the PlayStation 5 for all PlayStation users, including like God of War and I think Horizon's on there, maybe I'm wrong on that one. But there's a bunch of really great games on there, some of which I missed out on because I wasn't sure if I wanted them or I just didn't have time for them and so on. So one of the first things I've done is downloaded Days Gone. It got mixed reviews when it came out. I've now got that game and I'm playing that game as part of my subscription. It's really cool, and it's like almost like a rival to Xbox Game Pass. Almost. Either way, it's cool because there's a bunch of games there which I haven't played, which I can now try out, and I'm going to try out. So yeah, a lot of games here for gamers, for PlayStation fans. All you really need, basically, if you don't want to go out and buy an individual game, just get PlayStation Plus, and there you go, you've got 20 plus games to try out. Yeah, they're from the last generation, but they're still really cool to check out now. And because they're on the PlayStation 5, they'll load quicker, they might have a higher resolution, they might run a little better, they might have a better frame rate. They haven't necessarily been optimized for this console yet, but the console itself might boost them up a little bit. But once you turn on the power and before you go into the game, there is something else there though. It's the home screen. The home screen has been altered a bit. It does take a bit getting used to, but it is very flashy, it is very sleek and well designed, I think. In the top left corner you've got the bar with all the games that you can play and all the different elements. Then the top right you've got like your media library and your settings and so on. At the bottom of the screen you've got like the control panel, which you can bring up along with a bunch of other things. There's a lot here that'll take getting used to. A lot of the stuff on this console, I still don't have a clue what it does. I'm still figuring things out, and that's 3 weeks in. But it feels next gen, it feels new, it feels fresh, and that's a really cool thing. They have got rid of themes for certain games. So for example, when you bought Ghost of Tsushima on PlayStation 4, you got a new theme to set as your background and so on. Those things aren't on this console. Maybe they'll add them in the future or something, I don't know. But every time you go onto a game, it looks like each game now has like a background of its own. So they've kind of just swapped the way that's done. And each game also has like music to go with it now as well. It's kind of cool. They've kind of just replaced it in a way. But like I said, it does take getting used to. There is a little complication to it. So if you press one button, it brings up like a pop-up menu. But then if you hold it, it does something else. Really, it should be the other way around. I've actually swapped them around in my mind there. So for example, it should be hold down the button, it brings up the main screen, and press the button and it brings up the pop-up menu. But it's not. If you press the button, it takes you to the main screen. If you hold it, it brings up the pop-up. It's backwards. So there are some things like that which aren't as intuitive as I would like them to be. There's also an issue with the layout of things. So for example, you've got your media gallery. You would think that's where your photos and screenshots and broadcast stuff would be. No, it's not. All of that stuff's actually in a capture gallery, which is in a different part of the game menu altogether. You've actually got to go into your library, your game library, to find all that stuff, not your media library. It's weird. So your media library is actually where you've got like Netflix and Amazon, all your apps and stuff. But anything that you actually capture on the games, any images and screenshots, is in a game library folder right at the bottom and the back of the screen. So it does take some getting to, but once you've got there, it's added to the main slider on the main screen because that's your most recent used stuff. So if you're constantly using that stuff, it's not going to be as hard to find. PlayStation's also boasting the 3D audio. If you've got headphones, good headphones, it'll utilize that well. I've got a soundbar on my TV. The sound quality is great, I think. I'm liking it quite a lot. There's quite a bit of customization. You can adjust where the speakers are and so on the system. One of the issues I'm having is that every now and then the audio just cuts off. It's like just for like a brief second, but it's like really distracting, and it's like every couple of minutes it does it. It's annoying. I don't know why it is. I've swapped out the cables. I've tried changing the connections and so on. I don't know what it is. It's not my soundbar because it's got no problems with anything else. So it must be the PlayStation. Maybe there's some sort of connection issue, maybe there's some sort of glitch or bug. Hopefully that'll be sorted out in time, maybe they'll patch something in there. But yeah, I don't know what's going on there, but it's annoying. Similarly, another bug like that is my PlayStation sometimes will have problems with HDR. Sometimes I'll have HDR constantly flashing on and off repeatedly to the point where I've got to get up and swap the HDMI cable around. Again, is this a bug? Hopefully it's something that can be patched. Hopefully it's not an actual hardware issue. Because if it's a hardware issue, then I'm going to have to swap the PlayStation entirely or get it sent in for repairs or something. But it's interesting now that it's both HD and MI related stuff. So that's got me a little concerned. Again, it works, but I do sometimes have to swap them around. And the audio thing I've got no solution for at all right now. So that's annoying. One of the new things here is the controller has USB-C, I think it is, which means yes, it's easier to charge up. You don't have to charge it up by the PlayStation anymore. If you've got like a compatible plug socket in your house, you can just connect it to that and you can charge it up even when you're not playing on the PlayStation. That's really cool. Problem is, I don't know how long to charge it up. It doesn't seem to change color when it's fully charged, although maybe I just haven't fully charged it yet. So yeah, you can charge it up outside of the PlayStation, but I don't know if that's the best way to do it. And final thing I want to talk about the PlayStation 5 is the noise. It's quite loud initially when setting it up, and I should note now that my PlayStation is lying down flat, it's not standing up. So that might affect it to an extent. But it's noisy when you first boot it up, it then quietens down, and then every now and then it will power up again and do that, but it's really minor. You can't really notice it once you're actually playing the game. Moving on to the Xbox Series X. Talking about the way it looks. I think it's really sleek and stylish. It looks like a next gen, it looks like a high quality piece of tech, and I like that. Much better looking than the PlayStation 5, although it does stand out less than the PlayStation 5 for obvious reasons. It is essentially just a black rectangular box. But it's cool, I like it. It fits in well, it's not too big, the fans are fine, got no problems with the way it looks at all. It's also deadly silent, like really, really quiet. I was on about how the PlayStation 5, when you initially boot it up, it does make a noise, but then it quietens off. You don't even get that on the Series X. You literally just push a button, it beeps, and it's quiet as anything. I love that. It's really super cool. Half the time you're wondering, is it actually on? Is it actually working? Because it's so quiet. So, not much has changed about the interface. Once it's booted up, once you're on the main screen, yes, it's really quick. You get there super quick. Again, turn on the console. By the time I get my TV on and on the channel, it's actually there. So that's really cool. And once you're in the game, it takes even less time than that. Quick resume is one of the new features. So that means you can have like multiple games playing at once, essentially. I think it's like 4 or 5 games or something you can have at once. So I could be playing like The Witcher 3, then I can go out to the menu, put on Gears Tactics, and it's instantly where I am at. Then I can go straight back to Witcher 3. It doesn't have to load up again. It's literally where I left it off. And it's instantaneous. It's really cool, really quick. And in relation to this, the games haven't been optimized yet, some of these games. So Witcher 3, for example, put that in, play it. It looks great now. Put it in performance mode, it's now performing, I think, at 60 frames per second, which is better than it ever performed on the past consoles. I think it only reached 30 frames in the consoles before. But it's also now doing upscaled 4K. I don't think it's reaching full 4K yet. But Witcher 3, this is now probably one of the best ways to play the game on the Xbox Series X. I haven't seen it on the PlayStation 5 yet, so maybe it's the same on there, I don't know. But it's also, to show off how quick this console goes, you go onto the fast travel system. By the time you click on a location, the game can't even load it quick enough. So, for example, it looks like a glitch. You click on a location and the game's like popping out. You're there instantly because it's having to overcome the loading screen. Because on the past consoles, when you go to a fast travel location, you click a location, and then it's like a 30-second load, and then it loads you in, and then the environment pops in. That's not what's happening yet. Instead, the environment and you are loading in quicker than the loading screen can load in. And so it looks like a glitch, it looks like a bug. It's that super quick, and you're talking like 5 seconds at most. It's really cool. And this goes to a lot of the loading stuff on all of the other games that I've played so far. But speaking of the games, this is where the Xbox Series X is lacking. Yes, you've got Game Pass. Game Pass now includes EA Access, I think it's called. Is it EA Access? I'm going to call it EA Access, whether it's that or not. So you've got over 100 games in there, probably more than that, probably closer to 200 games in there now. Some Xbox first party, some from EA, some from other third party games and so on. So if you've missed out on the last generation of games, this is the best deal in game, and you can get like the first 3 months for like £1. £1. So for £1 you can play a £60 game. It's mind blowing. The deals and bargains that Game Pass offers to you. So this is, I think if you have an Xbox, you have to have Game Pass. You'd be absolutely mad not to. So it's really cool to have this. And of course, moving into the future, Xbox and Microsoft have bought a bunch of studios, so we're going to see more exclusive games on this console. That's really cool. But at launch, there's nothing really brand new. Halo Infinite got delayed. Now I'm not a Halo guy, so it doesn't bother me too much. But it does mean that heading into this new generation, the only exclusive right now is kind of Yakuza Like a Dragon. And even then, that's a third party game, not first party, and it's going to end up on the PS5, I think, early next year. So again, that's a bit of an issue. You then got Gears Tactics, which yes, is new for the consoles, but it was on PC earlier this year. Those are kind of the only exclusives going on. You've got Tetris Effect Connected, but again, Tetris Effect, the original version of the game, has been out on PS4 for almost a year now. So yeah, the exclusive lineup of games is lacking. You've also got an issue in that some third-party games, the brand new third-party games like Assassin's Creed Valhalla on release, for some bizarre reason, were performing slightly better, and I mean ever slightly better, on the PS5. When you look at all the text and specs of these consoles, that should not be possible. The Xbox Series X should be playing these games better, but for some reason they're not. And I do believe that now they've actually patched it in and they are performing equally. So hopefully that's going to happen across the board now, if not being better on the Series X. Because the Series X is the most powerful console on the planet. Looking at the text and specs of it, it's the best console on the planet as well. It just hasn't got the games to really show it off right now. But the user interface, the home screen, the menus and so on are exactly the same as the Xbox One X and the Xbox One. That's a bit disappointing, but it does mean that, hey, you don't have to get used to a whole new thing. It's very easy, quick and simple to get it set up and into a game because you already know what everything is, you already know how to do everything if you're a previous Xbox user. And if you're new to Xbox, hey, it's going to look new and fresh to you, so it works out fine. The controller, nothing too flashier. It looks like the past controllers. I think it's a little bit bigger, very slightly. It's now got like a rough texture on the underside, so it's got a bit more grip to it. But yeah, it's a good controller. Doesn't have all the fancy haptic feedback stuff that the DualSense has. But yeah, it's there. You can also opt in and buy an Elite controller if you want, but it's quite a bit of money. I wouldn't be surprised if they're looking at the DualSense and thinking, can we do that? I think they might in the future. But I talked about the download speeds for the PS5. This is the real, it's antagonizing me, the download speeds here, because it's ridiculous. There's nothing wrong with my internet. I've got good internet and I'm using a wired connection. Same internet that I use on the PlayStation 5, the exact same cable in fact, I just swapped them round. So how come a game is taking 45 minutes to download on PS5, but then I put the same thing on the Xbox Series X and it's taking 3 to 4 hours? It's ridiculous. I don't have a clue what's going on. Yeah, you can shut down all the other apps and games that you're using and it speeds things up a little bit, but even then it's like really limiting. I don't have a clue why that's happening. Why is one console downloading quicker than the other, despite the fact they're using the same internet? I'm assuming it's some sort of glitch or a bug, but I have no idea. But it does mean that a significant amount of time on my Xbox so far in these past few weeks has been spent downloading games and updates and content rather than playing them. One of the other elements that this console does have a benefit over from the PlayStation 5 is the sound and visuals. This console now supports Dolby Atmos and Dolby Vision. The previous consoles also supported Dolby Atmos. So it's got the best quality sound, the best quality HDR. Dolby Vision I don't think is actually being utilised in any video games yet, but if that's going to happen in the future, great, because I think Dolby Vision is a clear step up from standard HDR or HDR 10 plus or whatever. So as soon as games start utilising that, that could really set them apart. And Dolby Atmos does add a huge new element to gaming itself, so that's cool. PlayStation 5 doesn't support either of those, and I don't think it's going to. PlayStation 5, they are boasting their own sound system, their own 3D sensor style, and a lot of that needs to be utilised via a headset rather than a soundbar and whatever. But the Xbox also supports DTS now. That's something new I've noticed, which is the kind of rival to Dolby Atmos, sorry. So if you don't want Dolby Atmos, you've got that. If you've got the hardware and tech to utilise it, it's great. It really does add something to the games, and it helps with the immersion. The last thing I want to bring up is the controller yet again. It uses batteries. That's fine, because you know batteries work if you've got decent batteries. But the problem is, you keep having to replace the batteries, whereas with the PlayStation, you just plug in a wire and it charges up like a phone. It feels like batteries are a little dated now. They're less convenient, but it does add some nice weight and heft to the controller. So, you know, it's a minor thing, but I would like to be able to charge my controllers via USB, and I'm sure I can get like some sort of charging station that'll do something akin to that. But anyway, those are my thoughts on the new consoles. If I had to say which is better, it's hard to say right now because the Xbox Series X is lacking in the games. The PlayStation 5 is the one that's wowing me, but that's mainly because everything on there feels and seems new, whereas technically speaking, everything on the Xbox Series X is better. So yeah, it's hard to say right now. Give me a year and I'll give you a more definitive answer. But if you've liked this video, subscribe to my channel. You can also now follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/the_GrantBurton. I do weekly streams on Twitch now, every Tuesday and or Wednesday, so you can check out me playing some video games. And of course you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram too at the_GrantBurton. Until next time though, thanks for watching.